Today we're going to make a flavorful Indian dish called Chicken Korma. To make the marinade for Chicken Korma, we're going to need 4 to 5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken. I prefer breasts, though I use thighs for this video. 2 tablespoons of each olive oil and curry powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of each cumin and black pepper, a half a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of each cinnamon, cardamom, and coriander, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of each clove and nutmeg. We start by taking the olive oil and all the spices for the marinade and placing them into a large Ziploc bag and mixing it all up. Next, we're going to trim the fat off of the chicken and place the chicken in the bag as well, making sure that each piece of chicken is coated by the spice marinade. Then we're going to put the marinade in the fridge where my cats can't get to it. The chicken should marinate for between 2 and 24 hours. We marinated ours for 8 hours, after which we took it out and prepared for the main dish. For the main dish, we're going to need our marinated chicken, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a cup and a half of yogurt, a half a cup of ground almonds, which I used sliced almonds that I'll later ground, 2 large white onions, a cup of coconut milk, a 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, 4 teaspoons of curry powder, 2 teaspoons of turmeric, 1 1/4 teaspoons of each black pepper, coriander, and cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of cardamom, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 6 cloves of minced garlic, and a tablespoon of each brown sugar and minced ginger. The first thing we're going to do is to put all the dry spices into a bowl and set it aside for later. Next, we're going to use a deep frying pan on medium heat. Dice up the chicken and place it into the frying pan, covering the pan to let it cook through. As mentioned earlier, I used chicken thighs for this recipe. I only did this because the store was out of chicken breasts, thanks COVID, but I'm really glad I did. At the end, the dish tasted so good, and while I can't be 100% sure, I think the thighs definitely added to that flavor. While the chicken is cooking, we're going to start making the sauce. We need to puree onion, garlic, and water. So I quartered the onions, placed them into a blender with the garlic, and measured out a cup of water for it, then started pureeing. Unfortunately, the pieces of onion were a bit too big, so I pulled them out and cut each piece in half yet again. I also had some difficulty with the blender. After I started blending, it started to leak from the base. I cut that part out because you really don't need to watch me cleaning up. When the onion mixture is close to being blended, take out another deep frying pan and put 3 tablespoons of olive oil in it. Start cooking the oil on medium heat. Once the oil is shimmering, add the pureed mixture and cook it for about 5 minutes to darken the color, stirring while it cooks. While I was stirring up that, I decided that now was the time to ground up the almonds. We happen to have 2 blender bowls, so I used the second one to ground up the almonds. Once the onions have darkened, add in the dry spices, the yogurt, ground up almonds, ginger, and brown sugar, and mix everything up really well. I had some issues breaking up the brown sugar, so next time I'll break it up before I add it to the pan. You're also going to want to shake up the can of coconut milk really well, as it separates while in storage. It can be difficult to mix, and even though I shook my can for a while off screen, it was still not fully mixed. Next, add in the can of tomatoes with chilies and 1 cup of the coconut milk. Then stir up the sauce. Finally, drain the liquid from the chicken, which should be done cooking now, and pour the sauce into the same pan as the chicken, stirring well. You then want to bring it to a simmer and simmer it for 15 minutes. Note, I'm not saving the liquid from the chicken. I just wanted it to be clear from the video that I drained the chicken. Chicken korma is traditionally served with rice, so I also started making the rice at this point. You can see my other video for how to cook rice if you're not sure, but basically it's 2 parts water, 1 part rice, a splash of olive oil, and simmer it for 15 minutes. The end result was a magnificent bouquet of flavors that could feed probably about 8 people, and we definitely enjoyed the leftovers. This dish is more complicated than any other dish on this channel, but the end result was so tasty I had to share it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.